Hello, BookTube. I've been neglecting the mail just a bit, haven't I? Well, it's not good. I'll hear from irate legions if I do. So, let's go through a few packages. I got a few packages here. We'll see if there's anything squeal-worthy. This first one is very light. No boxes. Nothing. I don't think there's going to be any huge Steve books this time around. But let's see what we have here. Okay, well. Okay, this first one is from Penguin Random House. This is a paperback original. That's great. Oh no, this is going to be a $22 hardcover. That's still kind of great. That's not all that expensive. This is by A. Kendra Green, and it is called The Museum of Whales You Will Never See and Other Excursions to Iceland's Most Unusual Museums. And there's a penguin colophon and everything. This is going to be a fairly inexpensive hardcover. A. Kendra Green has worked at several museums and has an MFA in nonfiction from the University of Iowa. And she lives in Dallas, Texas. Let's see here. Why do people collect? I've never understood the reason myself. It is an obsession is it an obsession with objects or something deeper yet? In this book, author and artist A. Kendra Green leads us through the beguiling dreamscape of a remote island nation to show us humans drawn to stories and our abiding need as a species to collect, alter, and even invent the stuff that allows us to hold on to those stories. The Museum of Whales You Will Never See. Journey to Iceland's Phallological Museum, where families take pictures under scrotum skin lamps. Take a walk through the stunning eastern seaboard town of, oh goodness gracious, Storvagedoor, and try to count the number of stones that make up the accidental monument that is Petra's stone collection. Or you could test your ethereal beliefs at the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft, which poses a particularly Icelandic problem: how to display what can't be seen. Iceland provides the perfect landscape for the outlandish, the quirky, and over 265 unabashedly niche collections, which fascinate all areas of the human psyche. Okay, I'm sold. All right, great. So this comes out in May in a $22 hardcover. That's a kind of an interesting move. The Museum of Whales You Will Never See. All right, we're off to a weird but promising start. That's cool. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my. Oh, my. Okay. All right, this is a name I know. This is an author I really like. This is from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. This is by Donald Kreutzma, and this is Birdsong for the Curious Naturalist, your guide to listening. From a leading expert and world-renowned authority on birdsong, Donald Kreutzma, we've seen one of his books before about birdsong, a big definitive treatise on why birds sing and when they sing and when they don't sing and what it is they're singing. This is a much more approachable thing, full of pictures. Comes a basic how-to guide that teaches anyone from beginner to advanced birder how to listen. The descriptions are accompanied by color photos of the birds as well as QR codes that link to an online collection of more than 700 recordings. Okay. With these resources, readers are prepared to recognize bird sounds and the birds that make them. Kreutzma encourages readers to find the joy of birdsong and curiosity, to observe, listen intently, and be curious, ask questions, and realize that many unanswered questions about birdsong don't have to rely on scientists for answered, but can be answered by any curious naturalist. So I want to show you, this is what the description is talking about, those codes right there. So you get a full color picture of the bird, a description of its habitats and what sort, its clade positioning and whatnot. And then you have that thing which you can scan to go to an online database collection for song identification. And you're going to be able to tell, you'll be able to, this is a beautiful thing. It's full of color and black and white photos. And that's great on its own, but you're going to be able to tell the problem right off the bat, right? Which is utility. A book like this that wants to link a particular bird in a particular season, a particular gender, a particular station of molt or mating with a particular sound isn't particularly useful if you have to go home and consult a database. And there are innumerable apps for your phone that cut out the middleman in all sorts of inventive ways. There are all sorts of inventive birdsong apps for your phone that would be a little bit more direct than this. I think this is meant to be to bridge a gap between the immediate experience of walking around in, Central Park in New York City, or here at any of the nature preserves in Boston, and hearing something and immediately wanting to know what it is, and the experience of sitting at home and studying birdsong. I think this is meant to be a sort of a bridge between the two. This comes out in early March, and it has more than 700. Those codes lead to more than 700 online recordings. So it's a doorway to a treasure trove of birdish information. I imagine that I should probably send it to Olive at Book Olive, shouldn't I now? All right, so we're, once again, no ordinary books on this channel. We're 2 for 2, and they're both downright strange. This next one is very small, could be a slim volume of poetry. Let's see, it is indeed, yes. Okay, this is Hannah Sullivan. This is the finished copy of 3 poems by Hannah Sullivan. We saw this already. This is the finished copy, it's out already. It came out in early January, so it's late getting to me. And this is a lyrical and philosophical reflection on repetition and change. These 3 poems operate as a sparkling mosaic of the ordinary scenes that make up life's milestones. So I guess I missed Poetry Tuesday yesterday, but I think maybe I mean to do Poetry Tuesday, every Tuesday, reading contemporary poetry, and I can blame the state of my book acquisition. People book publicists leave their desks for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the turn of the year, and I'm now getting back. So I will start to get more slim volumes of poetry. I can blame that. I have plenty of poetry here that I could be reading you, but I think next week we'll start up again and we'll just keep going. We'll sample the contemporary poetry that we get here at this channel. That seems like the fairest thing to do, since no one's prejudged one way or another about it. So we'll start with this one. Next Tuesday, we will read something from 3 poems by Hannah Sullivan, and we'll see what that's like. All right, so let's move on. We have a slim volume of poetry. Now let's move on. We have 2 more packages to go. We can't have no mail on this channel. That can't be. Okay. All right. I think we saw this already as well. Let's see. Goodness gracious. This comes out in mid-February. This is by Alina Dillon, and it's Mercy House. I think we saw this already in an advance copy. Inside a century-old row house in Brooklyn, renegade Sister Evelyn and her fellow nuns preside over a safe haven for the abused and the abandoned. Gruff and indomitable on the surface, warm and wry underneath, little daunts Evelyn until she receives word that Mercy House will be investigated by Bishop Hawkins, a man with whom she shares a dark history. In order to protect everything they've built, the nuns must conceal many of their methods, which are forbidden by the Catholic Church. Evelyn will go to great lengths to defend all that she loves. She confronts a gang member, defies the church, challenges her own beliefs, and faces her past. She is bolstered by the other nuns and the vibrant, diverse residents of the shelter, whose differences are outweighed by what unites them. They've all been broken by men, but are determined to rebuild. Amidst her fight, Evelyn discovers the extraordinary power of mercy and grace, and the grace it grants, not just to those who receive it, but to those strong enough to bestow it. Okay, all right, so it's hashtag #MeToo with nuns. This is going to be a paperback original, so once again, a couple of things in this collection have been affordable, which is a rarity in today's book world in 2020. This is going to be a $17 paperback. It's going to look just like this. The PS guide is your tip-off that this is a paperback original, because that's a feature, and the PS guide is follow-up questions, elaborations, book prompts for book club discussions. The publishers know that they know all about book clubs, and a lot of them, especially when they're coming out with paperback originals of very accessible, popular fiction titles, know to at least a little bit cater to book clubs. And yet they appear not to know about BookTube. I drop heavy hints whenever I can, but they're perfectly okay with book clubs. But not BookTube. But that could change. Maybe 2020 will be the year. Let's see. Who is Alina Dillon when she's at home? Her work has appeared in Slice, The Rumpus, The Seventh Wave, among others. She earned her MFA from Fairfield University. Mercy House is her debut novel. Good for her. Very pretty thing. Well-designed, pretty thing in a paperback. And she lives on the North Shore of Boston with her husband and their black Labrador Penny. Okay, so she's probably been to the Brattle. All right, great. So February 11th for an original paperback. And then we have this last one. No Howling Steve books here, but we can't let the mail go. So what have we got here? Okay, all right. Well, oh, okay, this is another paperback. Wow, okay. Is this, good Lord, look at all these blurbs. The whole thing is just covered in blurbs. That's incredible. Okay, well, this is another paperback original. This is going to be a $17 paperback coming out, anybody have one help me out here? Early February. So that's a lot of affordable books this time around. This is by Isaac Bailey, and it's called My Brother Moochie. At the age of 9, the author witnessed his hero, his elder brother Moochie, taken away in handcuffs for the murder of a white man in Bonneau, South Carolina. Moochie would not return from prison for 32 years, 7 of which were spent in solitary confinement. 7 years in solitary confinement. If that's not torture by any standard, I don't know what is. In his eye-opening book, Bailey, an award-winning reporter for the Sun News in South Carolina, tells the story of, I assume it's his brother, but I am not prepared here, of the profound impact Moochie's crime has had on his family. Born out of a 7-part series Bailey wrote for the Sun News in 2007, the book draws on sociological research as well as Bailey's expertise as a journalist to seek answers to the crucial question of why Moochie and many other young black men, including half of 10 boys his own age, end up in the criminal justice system. What role do poverty, race, and drug abuse play? What effect does living in the South, in the Bible Belt, have? Here, the author shares his haunting experience growing up as a black man in the American South, discussing race culture in the United States and the indelible legacy of crime and violence, not just for the victims, but for the perpetrators and their families as well. Good Lord, I wonder what Moochie must have been like when he finally came out, when he finally got home. 30 years, you wouldn't know him at all. His entire personality would be shaped by living in prison. And whatever damages to his personality would be done by living all of those years in solitary confinement. Years. Solitary confinement is supposed to be a special punishment. You telling me he deserved a special punishment for 7 years? That's amazing. Okay, well, this comes out in early February. It's going to be just like this. I'm curious to know if Moochie... I'm curious to know 2 things. 1, was he actually guilty? And 2, what were the exact circumstances of his arrest that allowed him to go to prison for 30 years instead of being shot 70 times on the sidewalk? I'll be curious to know the whole details of this. Wow. Okay, so this is, the pub sheet says this is new in paperback. Did this maybe come out last year? Oh, yeah, I think it did, because it's got a ton of blurbs on it. Yeah, this came out last year. Okay, so this is not a paperback original, but it is going to be on your paperback release tables in February. Okay, all right, so that is our mail. Quite a number of paperbacks. No Steve books, but they can't all be Steve books. So My Brother Moochie is now out in a trade paperback. Then we have a paperback original of Mercy House, which is Alina Dillon's debut novel. We have 3 poems by Hannah Sullivan. We'll dig into this next week. We have Birdsong by Donald Kreutzma. This is an audio-enhanced guide to the song of hundreds of popular bird species that you can find in America if you go out and beat the bushes for them. I hear birdsong all the time when I take Frida out into the wilderness here in Boston. And The Museum of Whales You Will Never See, and Other Excursions to Iceland's Most Unusual Museums by A. Kendra Green, late of the University of Iowa writing workshop. So there you go. That is the day's mail. Some interesting titles. I never know what I'm going to get on this channel. I never do. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, Book 2.